Listen closely, because this moment isn't random. If this message found you, it's because heaven arranged it that way. You've been staring at the fragments of your life, trying to understand why everything had to break before it could make sense. But God says, the broken pieces were never wasted. I'm using every shard to build something beautiful. There were moments you questioned whether you'd ever feel whole again. You've walked through seasons where everything you touched seemed to fall apart. Friendships fractured, opportunities dissolved, plans shattered like glass in your hands. And through it all, you wondered if maybe you missed something, if maybe you were the problem. But hear this clearly, you were never the problem. You were the process. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every closed door was not a punishment, it was a placement. God was rearranging what you thought was over, preparing a divine masterpiece that could only be seen from a higher view. You were living inside the puzzle, unable to see the picture, but God has always seen it complete. You cried over pieces that didn't seem to fit. You begged for things that were never meant to stay. You held on to what was breaking because you thought it defined you. But the same God who allowed the breaking is the same God who knows how to align the fragments in perfect time. What looked like loss was actually alignment. What felt like rejection was divine redirection. There's a shift happening even now. The pieces that once made no sense are beginning to align. The people who left made space for what's arriving. The delay you hated was the protection you needed. You thought God was silent, but he was sculpting. You thought he forgot you, but he was forming you. Chosen one. The puzzle of your life is not incomplete, it's in progress, and soon you will step back and see the full picture. You'll see why certain things had to end, why certain people had to leave, and why the pieces you once called broken were actually the keys to your breakthrough. This is the moment heaven whispers, it all fits now. Stay with me, because in this message you're about to see how God turns fragments into fulfillment. You've been walking through a season that looked like chaos, but heaven calls it construction. What you thought was falling apart was actually being rearranged by unseen hands. Every broken piece that seemed to scatter was marked numbered and destined to return to its rightful place. Nothing in your story slipped through God's fingers. There is divine intelligence behind every shift that happened. The delay was not denial, it was design. The emptiness was not abandonment, it was preparation. You see, the same spirit that hovered over the void before creation is the same spirit hovering over the fragments of your life, speaking light into what once looked formless. Heaven has been orchestrating something you couldn't yet comprehend. While you were looking at the puzzle from the ground, God was viewing it from above, seeing how every jagged edge, every broken corner, every forgotten piece would one day interlock in perfect unity. And when that day arrives, you'll understand that the pain had pattern, the loss had language, the silence had strategy. The voice of God whispers, "Be still. I am completing what you thought was lost." You may not realize it, but your breaking invited divine craftsmanship. When you surrendered what you couldn't fix, God began to build what only he could finish. The potter does not panic when the clay collapses. He reshapes it with purpose. The artist does not discard torn canvases. He layers new colors until redemption emerges from ruin. Heaven says, I've been writing restoration into your story. Even when you felt forgotten, your name was engraved on his timeline. Even when the enemy tried to convince you that you were disqualified, God was positioning you for qualification by grace. There's a reason your spirit has been restless lately. You can feel something shifting, but can't quite describe it. That's because heaven's hands are at work again, turning over pieces that once looked upside down and placing them where they always belonged. The divine clock is striking alignment. You may not see it yet, but in the spirit things are moving. Pieces long scattered by disappointment are finding their way home. Relationships meant to heal, not harm, are being sent. Opportunities that align with your anointing are being released. Even the memories that once brought pain will soon carry wisdom. God is not simply restoring what was lost, He's revealing what was hidden. The puzzle was never incomplete. You were just seeing it mid-process. Every cut, every curve, every edge that made no sense was part of a divine geometry that only heaven could design. And now as the picture begins to emerge, the Spirit says, "Do not despise the pieces that once hurt you. They hold the beauty you prayed for. Stay attentive because what comes next will unveil the mystery behind it all." The prophecy that was once whispered in fragments is about to be spoken in full. Something sacred is unfolding quietly but powerfully behind the veil of what you call ordinary life. You've been standing before scattered pieces, but in the Spirit, a divine pattern is being revealed. Heaven has been assembling what your natural eyes could not see. There's been movement in hidden realms, threads, intertwining alignments, forming purposes, converging. And the voice of God now declares, what once looked broken will soon reveal its design. You were never meant to stay in fragments. The shaking that broke you was never to destroy you. It was to loosen the false attachments that could not hold your destiny. The puzzle pieces began to separate because you were outgrowing the picture you once fit into. That's why doors closed so suddenly. That's why people disappeared without warning. That's why the old season could no longer sustain you. It wasn't part of the next image God was forming. You've been through long nights of silence, wondering if the promise was ever real. You prayed and heard nothing. You sowed and saw nothing. But beneath the soil of that silence, seeds were sprouting. Heaven was working in the dark, aligning every detail, every connection, every unseen favor to create what you're about to step into. The delay was divine choreography. The silence was heaven's language of trust. And now, the Spirit of the Lord says, it is time. The pieces are coming together. This next season will not be built on confusion, but on clarity. You will look at areas of your life that once felt shattered your identity. Your calling, your relationships, and suddenly understanding will flood your spirit. The puzzle of your pain will turn into the portrait of your purpose. For years you've been gathering fragments of faith, wondering how they fit a moment of encouragement here, a prophetic dream there, an encounter that felt too brief, a disappointment that seemed senseless. But the divine hand has never stopped arranging them. Each moment was a piece. Each tear was a hue. Each test was a stroke of divine artistry. There will be a moment, and it's closer than you think, where heaven allows you to step back spiritually and see the full image. You'll realize the very things that made you weep were essential to the symmetry of your story. The betrayal that cut you the deepest gave you compassion that can now heal others. The loss that emptied you gave you room to carry more glory. The wilderness that isolated you became the training ground for divine authority. And this is the word of the Lord, for you completion is coming. Not perfection, not performance, but divine completion. The areas that felt disconnected are being fused by purpose. The chapters that felt unfinished are being sealed by grace. Where you once said, "I don't understand," you will soon say, "Now I see." Even now there's a spiritual convergence happening. Prophecies spoken over you years ago, words you thought had expired, are waking up again. Unfulfilled promises are stirring. Divine connections that drifted apart are being magnetized back into orbit. What was scattered is being summoned. Heaven is calling every piece of your purpose to attention. You are entering a time of divine revelation, where mysteries will no longer confuse you, but confirm you. You'll understand why the breaking had to happen before the building. You'll recognize that the tears you cried were watering the ground for your new beginning. And hear this clearly. You will not miss your moment. The same God who numbered your steps has also numbered your pieces. None of them were lost. None of them wasted. The same Spirit that hovered over the deep at creation is hovering over the fragments of your story now, forming, filling, and finishing what was once incomplete. This is the prophecy, the broken pieces fit. The picture is being revealed. And when you see it, you will no longer mourn what fell apart. You will marvel at what God made out of it. So breathe. Trust. Watch. The divine artist has never left the canvas. He's been painting in layers, and now the final strokes are being applied. When God allows something to break, He's not abandoning it. He's transforming it. The breaking was never the end of your story. It was the beginning of your revelation. The Spirit of God is teaching you now that what you call broken in the natural is often becoming in the supernatural. Every fracture in your life carried a message that even in fragmentation, divine design remains. The brokenness you've endured is sacred, not shameful. You see, in heaven's economy, what is fractured becomes fertile. The very places that shattered you are now the same places where light is entering. Think of how stained glass is formed. It begins as scattered shards, sharp and colorless. But when the artist gathers them, aligns them, and allows light to pass through those fragments, tell a story more radiant than any unbroken piece could. That's what God is doing with you. He's turning your scars into windows of light. You thought the pain disqualified you, but it was shaping your perception. Each tear polished your discernment. Each loss deepened your compassion. You are not just surviving the storm, you're becoming the revelation of what divine endurance looks like. Heaven doesn't waste pain. God uses it as pigment. This is the depth of divine craftsmanship. You were never meant to be a flawless sculpture. You were meant to be a mosaic of grace. The cracks you carry aren't signs of weakness. They're proof that the potter's hands have touched you. The Japanese call it kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold, making the restored object more valuable than before. That's the essence of your spiritual identity, made whole by divine gold, shining brighter because of what was once shattered. There's a reason your life feels like a puzzle. The pieces represent different versions of you: your faith, your fear, your dreams, your wounds. Some were shaped by seasons of abundance, others by nights of tears, but the divine pattern requires all of them. The Spirit of God is saying, do not reject the pieces that came from your pain. Without them, the picture would be incomplete. Understand this before God reveals your glory. He refines your foundation. The breaking had to come first because humility had to make room for power. Faith had to outgrow control. Dependence had to replace pride. Every time you said, I don't understand, heaven whispered, I do. And that's why you're still standing, because the hand that allowed the storm is the same hand guiding you through it. Spiritually, you've been in what prophets call divine disassembly. God dismantled everything that wasn't aligned with your destiny piece by piece, until only what was real remained. It felt like loss, but it was liberation. You were being unmade to be remade. The pieces weren't falling apart, they were falling into place. Faith grows best in seasons of mystery. When you couldn't see the pattern, that's when God was closest. When the puzzle scattered, He didn't leave. He leaned in. Every unanswered prayer wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Every delayed promise wasn't forgotten, it was being fitted into a larger image. You see, the spiritual meaning behind your pain is pattern recognition. When your perspective shifts from, why is this happening to me, to, what is this shaping in me, everything changes. That's when revelation begins to bloom. God never wanted you to see life as random chaos. He wanted you to see it as divine choreography. Every heartbreak had a rhythm. Every delay had timing. Every silence had a sound, only audible in faith. And now as you look at your reflection through spiritual eyes, you realize something extraordinary. You are no longer the same person who broke. You carry wisdom that cannot be taught, only lived. You carry grace that can't be borrowed, only built through fire. You carry authority that can't be earned, only entrusted through endurance. The broken pieces of your life became your spiritual credentials. You don't speak from theory, you speak from testimony. You don't preach perfection, you embody redemption. That's why people are drawn to your light even when you feel dim. They see the glow of someone who's been in the potter's fire and didn't crumble. They see wholeness that came through surrender, not success. This is the mystery of divine restoration. God does not erase your past. He weaves it. Every mistake, every heartbreak, every silent season becomes thread in a tapestry that heaven proudly displays. The more complex your pain, the more intricate the picture. So when you feel like your life is still a mess of pieces, remind yourself so was creation before God spoke. The void had no order, no structure, no beauty. But when the Spirit hovered and the word was spoken, light appeared. And that same Spirit is hovering over your life now, whispering the same command, "Let there be light," and there will be. If you've been sensing subtle shifts in your spirit lately, it's not your imagination. These are confirmations from heaven. God is showing you piece by piece that the puzzle is aligning. The signs may not always appear loud or dramatic. Sometimes they come as whispers wrapped in ordinary moments. But once you learn to recognize them, you'll realize that heaven has been speaking through everything around you. The first sign is divine déjà vu, that strange feeling that you've been here before, that what's unfolding was already written. It's the Spirit reminding you that this moment isn't new to God. It's fulfillment of what He showed you long ago. You'll start seeing familiar themes, dreams repeating scriptures, resurfacing phrases, or songs echoing the same message. It all fits now. Those repetitions are not coincidences. They are confirmations. The second sign is inner peace replacing panic. Where once you felt frantic trying to control the outcome, you now sense calm even amid uncertainty. That's the Holy Spirit's signature. The moment you stop fighting the process and begin to feel stillness in the storm, you're standing in alignment. Peace doesn't mean the storm has ended. It means heaven has anchored you through it. The third sign is divine timing, revealing itself through interruptions. Things that used to frustrate you, delays, cancellations, redirections suddenly begin to make sense in hindsight. You realize the no that broke your heart saved you from an outcome that wasn't meant for your destiny. God often hides protection inside disappointment. When the path shifts without warning, it's not rejection, it's rerouting. The fourth sign is the return of what's real. People who carry genuine love and purpose reappear in your life. Relationships that are rooted in truth find their way back, not because of nostalgia, but because of necessity. The divine puzzle cannot be completed without the right pieces, and those pieces include people. Don't be surprised if reconciliation or restoration happens with individuals who were once distant. God's timing is perfect, and His alignments never miss. The fifth sign is your sensitivity to the Spirit increasing. You start noticing meaning in small details, numbers, colors, dreams, sudden insights. You wake up with words burning in your heart, songs playing in your mind, or ideas that feel too precise to be random. That's because heaven is fine-tuning your spiritual frequency. The veil between the natural and supernatural is thinning, allowing you to discern God's fingerprints in daily life. And finally, the sixth sign: opportunities begin to find you. You don't have to chase what's yours anymore. Doors that were locked before now open without striving. Invitations appear that align perfectly with your purpose. It's not luck, it's alignment. The puzzle is clicking into place. and what was once scattered is now synchronized by grace. When these signs start to appear, pause and acknowledge them. Gratitude seals revelation. Each confirmation is a whisper saying, "You're on the right path. Don't stop now." God is showing you that He's not only restoring the picture, He's revealing the purpose behind every missing piece. What was once confusion is becoming clarity. What was once pain is now prophecy fulfilled. And as these confirmations unfold, you'll know deep in your soul the divine hands that allowed the breaking are the same hands now completing the masterpiece. Before the full picture is revealed, there is always a period of testing, a time when God allows you to walk through uncertainty, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Even as the pieces start coming together, you may still face moments that make you question if things are really shifting. These are the hidden challenges that arise just before completion, the spiritual contractions before birth. One of the first challenges you'll face is the temptation to rush what's divine. When you begin to sense alignment, impatience will whisper, "Make it happen now." But remember, puzzles lose their beauty when pieces are forced. If you try to fit something before its time, you risk damaging what was meant to be perfect. This is where trust becomes your greatest weapon. God is not delaying to hurt you. He's waiting until everything fits with precision. The second challenge is the illusion of stagnation. Sometimes it will seem as if nothing is changing even after receiving confirmation. That's when faith feels the hardest, when heaven goes silent after giving you a glimpse of hope. But don't mistake silence for absence. The potter often pauses while the clay dries. The architect reviews every angle before revealing the design. God's quietness is not withdrawal. It's focus. The third challenge is emotional residue from old wounds. As you step into alignment, the enemy will try to resurrect what God buried. Old pain, old shame, old lies. Triggers will arise to test if your heart truly healed. But this time, you'll notice something different. What used to break you no longer owns you. The same pain that once silenced you now strengthens you. You are learning that healing isn't forgetting, it's remembering without bleeding. The fourth challenge is misunderstanding from others. As your spirit shifts, not everyone will understand your new rhythm. Some will misread your silence, your focus, your boundaries. They'll call it pride or distance when it's really protection. God is repositioning you away from noise so you can hear His instructions clearly. Not everyone is meant to see your process. Some are only assigned to witness the outcome. And then comes the final challenge: spiritual fatigue. When you've endured long seasons of waiting, even hope can feel heavy. You might wake up weary not because you lack faith, but because faith has been tested for so long. In those moments, grace steps in. Grace reminds you that your strength doesn't come from striving, it flows from surrender. You were never meant to carry the puzzle alone. The Creator has always been assembling it with you. If you find yourself in these challenges, take heart. They are not signs of failure, but proof of progress. The closer you get to fulfillment, the more resistance you'll encounter. Heaven allows pressure before promotion, because pressure reveals what's pure. You are being refined, not reduced. You are being polished, not punished. Every hidden challenge is shaping the strength needed to sustain what's coming. The breaking built your humility, and now endurance will anchor your elevation. So when you face the temptation to rush to doubt, to collapse, pause. Breathe. Remember, every masterpiece takes time. God isn't just piecing together your life. He's perfecting your heart to hold it. And soon you'll see that what once felt like obstacles were actually the divine brushstrokes completing the picture of your destiny. Now that heaven has revealed the meaning behind your breaking, there are divine instructions being released for this season. These are not merely suggestions, they are keys of alignment. When followed with faith, they unlock doors that no one can shut and establish divine order in the areas of your life that once felt chaotic. The first instruction is simple yet powerful. Be still, even as things move around you. Stillness is not inactivity, it's spiritual stability. You must learn to move at the rhythm of the Spirit, not the rhythm of pressure. The world will urge you to rush, to prove, to produce. But God's whisper says, wait for me. The power of alignment is found in stillness. The moment you rest in His timing, divine coordination begins. Heaven works fastest when you stop striving. The second instruction, guard what God is growing. This is the season where the enemy doesn't just attack through destruction, he attacks through distraction. He'll send noise, confusion, and even opportunities that look good but carry no grace. Be discerning. Every open door isn't divine. Some are detours wrapped in glitter. Protect your peace like it's sacred currency, because it is. If an environment drains your spirit, it's not your assignment. The third instruction, speak what you see in faith, not what you feel in fear. Your words are spiritual tools. They carry creative power. The same God who spoke light into darkness has placed that authority in your mouth. Stop narrating defeat over the puzzle before it's complete. Instead of saying, it's broken, declare it's becoming. Instead of saying, I don't see it, declare God is revealing it. The language of heaven is faith, not fear. When your words agree with His will, manifestation accelerates. The fourth instruction, return to the altar of gratitude. Gratitude is what keeps revelation alive. Every time you thank God for progress you can't yet see, you invite His presence into the process. Thank Him for the closed doors, for the delays, for the redirections. Praise is the glue that keeps your faith together while the pieces settle into place. You may not have the full picture, but gratitude says, even in fragments, I trust you, I trust you. The fifth instruction, release the need to understand everything. This one is hard for the analytical mind, but crucial for the surrendered soul. You will not always know how the pieces fit until they do. Faith is walking forward without seeing the full map. It's trusting that the one who designed the picture holds every missing piece. Let go of the obsession with explanation. God is not asking you to analyze His plan. He's asking you to agree with it. The sixth instruction, prepare your atmosphere. As the puzzle nears completion, the environment around you must reflect the peace within you. Clean your space. Simplify your surroundings. Fill your atmosphere with worship, prayer, and stillness. Light candles. Open your windows. Play the music of heaven. When your external world aligns with your internal posture, divine flow becomes easier. God often moves most clearly in uncluttered places. And lastly, the seventh instruction, expect divine completion without comparison. Your picture won't look like anyone else's. The way God completes you will not mirror another's story. Stop measuring your timeline by someone else's testimony. The puzzle you're carrying is personalized by heaven. Comparison blurs clarity. Stay in your lane, honor your pace, and trust that what's coming is tailored to your design. Beloved, these instructions are not just spiritual, they're practical. They shape how you walk, speak, rest, and perceive your life. When followed, they create an atmosphere that attracts divine alignment. God is saying, I am not just restoring your pieces. I am teaching you how to protect what I've restored. Because when the puzzle is complete, you'll carry a level of peace that draws others toward healing. You'll become a walking prophecy, a living example of how brokenness, when surrendered to heaven, becomes beauty beyond comprehension. Obedience is your offering. Trust is your worship. Stillness is your strategy. Follow these instructions with reverence, and you will find yourself walking effortlessly into what others have been striving for. The divine puzzle is nearing completion, and the master builder is aligning the final edges. Don't move ahead of him, walk beside him. The next move isn't yours to force. It's His to fulfill. As you walk into this new phase of completion, know this with certainty: you are not walking alone. Every step you take is surrounded by divine protection. Every breath you draw is guarded by unseen angels. The same God who allowed the breaking has stationed heaven's defense around your rebuilding. You are covered on every side. There is a shield over your life that cannot be penetrated by what once harmed you. What wounded you in the last season will not touch you in this one. You've been fortified by fire. Every trial you endured has now become armor. Every tear you shed has turned into oil. When you move forward, you do so not as the wounded, but as the anointed. The Spirit of God says, "I have placed a hedge around your purpose. I have sealed what I've healed." You may still feel vulnerable at times, but don't mistake sensitivity for weakness. Sensitivity to the Spirit is what keeps you safe. You can sense what others can't. You can feel when something is off before it arrives. That's divine discernment, your first layer of protection. The second layer is peace. Peace is not passive, it's powerful. When the world shakes, peace anchors you. It guards your mind against confusion and your heart against fear. The Bible calls it the peace that surpasses understanding because it doesn't make sense to people who live by sight. You will have peace even when the pieces are still shifting. That's how you'll know God is near. The third layer of protection is separation. God is removing you from places that can no longer carry your calling. Don't mourn what's being pruned, thank Him for it. He's cutting off counterfeit alignments and draining environments that feed anxiety. This separation isn't rejection, it's preservation. Some people are not your enemies. They're simply not your assignment. And finally, your greatest protection is God's presence itself. When you dwell in His presence, darkness cannot approach you. The enemy may roar, but he cannot reach. You are hidden beneath divine wings, shielded by glory and marked by purpose. The attacks that used to find you now lose your address because your spirit has shifted to a higher atmosphere. Listen closely. Heaven is saying, "You are untouchable where I've placed you." No curse can cling, no weapon can prosper, no scheme can succeed. The same hand that broke you to shape you is now holding you to sustain you. So rest. You no longer have to live in defensive fear, waiting for the next blow. You are not fighting for survival anymore. You are walking in security. The battle is over your peace, because your peace carries power. The assurance from heaven is this: you are covered, you are chosen, and you are protected until completion. Every angel assigned to your life knows your name. Every attack has already been intercepted. The only thing left for you to do is believe. Walk confidently. Sleep peacefully. Move boldly. You are not exposed. You are encircled. The one who began this masterpiece will guard it until the final stroke is finished. When divine completion arrives, it doesn't just change your circumstances, it transforms you. The shift that's coming is not just external, it's internal, spiritual, and eternal. God is not simply putting your life back together. He's revealing the version of you that was hidden inside the breaking all along. You are stepping into a season of divine unveiling where everything that once felt shattered will begin to radiate meaning. What once felt heavy now becomes holy. The very pieces that used to represent pain will start to shine with purpose. You will look at your reflection and barely recognize yourself, not because you've lost who you are, but because you've finally become who you were meant to be. This is the miracle of transformation. God uses brokenness to release beauty. He allowed you to be crushed in certain areas so that humility could replace pride, compassion could replace bitterness, and wisdom could replace confusion. Every tear watered the soil of your destiny, and now, What was once barren begins to bloom. You're about to see evidence of your endurance. Promises that felt delayed will suddenly manifest. Dreams that seemed impossible will come into view. People who doubted your calling will have no words when they witness your elevation. But you won't gloat, you'll give glory, because you'll know it wasn't your doing. It was divine orchestration. There will be moments in this next season where you'll stop and whisper, "Now I understand." You'll see how the rejection led to redirection, how the loss produced strength, how the waiting grew discernment. You'll realize that the delay wasn't denial, it was development. Your spiritual vision will sharpen. You'll start connecting dots you didn't even know were related. Encounters lessons, heartbreaks. Even old conversations will suddenly make sense. It will feel like heaven turned the light on in a once dark room. But transformation doesn't just bring revelation, it brings release. You will no longer carry the weight of needing closure for every chapter. You'll be too busy walking in completion to look back at confusion. The puzzle is complete, and now you are walking inside the picture. God is saying, I've not only restored what was broken, I've made it new. New peace, new confidence, new creativity, new purpose. The things that used to drain you will no longer have power over you. You will respond differently, think differently, and attract differently because your frequency has shifted. You've gone from wounded to whole, from survivor to seer, from being tested to being trusted. This transformation is not meant to stay private, it's meant to inspire others. Your story becomes a lantern for those still walking through the dark. You become living proof that God doesn't just repair, He redefines. People will be drawn to your light not because you're perfect, but because you're real. They'll see the glow of grace resting on someone who's been rebuilt by love. And here's the fulfillment. Everything God promised you is still intact. Nothing was lost, only rearranged. You'll receive double for what was taken. You'll experience joy that no circumstance can steal. The puzzle that once caused you to weep will now become your testimony of divine artistry. You are stepping into the after season, the moment when prophecy becomes presence. You'll stand in rooms you once prayed to enter. You'll carry peace in places that once caused panic. And through it all, your heart will whisper the same phrase, "It was worth it." Because now you see the broken pieces weren't punishment. They were placement. And what once looked shattered now shines as heaven's mosaic of mercy, beauty, and completion. The masterpiece is finished, and it's you. Take a deep breath. You've come so far through storms, silence, confusion, and faith that had to hold, even when nothing made sense. Yet here you are, standing in the glow of divine completion. You may not see the full picture yet, but you can feel it. The atmosphere around you has shifted. Heaven has signed its approval over your process. This is the part where you seal what God has done, not by striving, but by speaking. Life and power still flow through your words. So let's anchor this moment with divine affirmations. Speak them aloud if you can. Whisper them if you must. Let them echo in your soul until they become your reality. 1. Every broken piece in my life is finding its perfect place. What once felt disconnected is aligning by divine hands. Nothing has been lost. It's all been rearranged by love. 2. I am whole, healed, and held by heaven. My heart no longer lives in fragments. I carry peace where pain once lived. I am complete in God's timing. 3. My story is a masterpiece of divine design. What was meant to break me became the blueprint for my becoming. My life reveals God's artistry. 4. I walk in perfect alignment with divine order. No delay, no detour, no distraction can steal what's been destined for me. I trust the timing of heaven. Pause for a moment. Feel the stillness. Feel the warmth of grace wrapping around your spirit. The presence of God is near, gentle, protective, complete. Now hear this blessing. May every scattered piece of your past come together in divine harmony. May your heart rest in the assurance that nothing was wasted, not a moment, not a tear, not a lesson. May the same hands that allowed the breaking continue to shape your destiny with tenderness and precision. May peace saturate your days and purpose awaken your nights. May your steps be ordered by grace, and may your voice carry healing wherever it's heard. Heaven declares over you, it is finished. The puzzle is complete. The storm has served its purpose. The silence has spoken its wisdom. Now rise whole, radiant, and ready. Because what God started, He has completed. You are not the same person who broke, you are the person who became. And from this day forward, every time you look at your life, may you see beauty, not brokenness, purpose, not pain, fulfillment, not fragments. For the masterpiece has been revealed, and that masterpiece is you.